get all of your questions answered. So we're not going to do much of a presentation. We're going to go through a few slides at the beginning, and some of those will actually be some common questions that we get, and that should really only take 10 minutes or less, and then we're just going to open it up to questions. And I just have this in a regular Zoom meeting, so if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, that will be okay. We'll kind of see how that goes. If we have a bunch of questions coming in, you can just type a question in the chat. That will work as well. So we'll just kind of go in that format. So yeah, so let's get started. So let me get to the next slide here. So a lot of you are probably familiar with the programs that we offer. I know a lot of people in attendance are in one of our certificate programs, and you might be interested in one of the master's programs, but we do offer a lot of different certificate programs. We have represent faculty from each of these certificate programs here if anybody has a specific question, but GIS, geospatial intelligence, geodesign, remote sensing, programming, and then we have our 2 master's degrees, the MGIS and the spatial data science program. We've had lots and lots of students, which is fantastic. We have a really nice network, for jobs, and big alumni network that we can use, and that's how we get a lot of our students, which is really great. So we have done surveys of our alumni, and they come from many, many different employers, which if you ever follow our jobs board, you'll see we post job announcements. A lot of those alumni come back to us with jobs that their organizations have, and lots of different job titles. So here are some of those that come from the surveys that we have sent out. And as you can see, there are many, many more employers and job titles. If you have looked at any of the information on our web pages, you have seen that we have over 30 classes that have obviously wide-ranging topics across those different programs that we offer. And we collaborate with learning designers in our program. So not only do we have faculty who are running these classes, but we have a team of learning designers behind the scenes who are helping us put these courses online, make sure we're using proper technology, and keeping everything current and updated. Probably the biggest thing you'll hear about our program is that it's very flexible. We have 5 10-week terms a year. So we have students who take 1 class every term. If they want to get, most of our students are working full time. So they want to go fairly quickly and can finish a master's degree in a little over 2 years. Some students decide to only take a couple classes a year. Maybe they are being reimbursed by their employer, something like that. And there are lots of different softwares that are being covered in the classes, as you can see there: QGIS, Python, eCognition, ArcGIS Pro, and others. So we'll go into some of the questions. One is, how much time do I have to complete my degree? So when you apply or when you're accepted to one of our master's degrees, you actually have 8 years to finish. So it's quite a lot of time. Most students don't need anywhere near that. Most students finish in a little over 2 years, like I mentioned earlier. Our MGIS degree is 36 credits, which is 12 classes. Our Master of Spatial Data Science degree is 11 or 12 classes, depending on the capstone project that you choose. So again, if you take 1 class per term, that's a little more than 2 years, but it varies. Some people do take more time than that. And this just shows the span of when our classes are. So I said we have 5 10-week terms a year. Our fall terms, our fall 1 and fall 2 overlap by 3 weeks. Similarly with the spring terms, they overlap by 3 weeks, and then we have 1 summer term. For tuition, in-state and out-of-state are the same. So it's the same cost for everybody. I'll go to this next slide and show some of the costs. It's $950 per credit, and almost all of our classes are 3 credits. So you can just see, go down through each of our programs, roughly what everything costs. And you'll see there a link that there is a tuition estimator, but really there aren't any, there aren't many, if any, additional fees. And we'll talk about that in a little bit about books and things like that. But really, this is pretty much what you'll see. Technology fees are built into that, and there aren't any other hidden fees. So now, like I said, some of our faculty will go through some of the common questions that might address some of the things that you're thinking, and then we'll go to everyone in the room and see if we have any additional questions. So, so for the first one, is everything completely online? Yes, everything is completely online. One thing we always say is we love for people to come visit us. So while we typically only see students in class or at conferences in non-COVID times, which we love to see students and alumni at conferences, there is never a requirement for you to come onto campus during any of our programs. We do have a lot of students who come to graduation, which is fantastic. We have again, in non-COVID times, we have a reception for students, for graduating students and their families. But those are all completely voluntary, obviously. So yes, you can complete everything completely online. I think Greg's going to take this next question.
Yes, hello, my name is Greg Thomas. I'm an associate teaching professor. I teach a lot of the classes in the geospatial intelligence programs. And this is the real Penn State. You will get a diploma that says the Pennsylvania State University. There's no distinction. It does not say Penn State Online or anything else. What will be, you will be taking these classes, you'll be a member of the Penn State's World Campus, which is really just the online delivery mechanism, but there's nothing saying, anything different. The credits are the same, whether you're taking them online or in the classroom. So.
Great. And then the next question, I think Fritz Kessler is going to take this one.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Fritz Kessler, another teaching professor in the online program. Presently, I'm actually the interim director while our current director is on sabbatical. So to answer this question, do I need to buy software or textbooks? In most cases, there are no, as Beth alluded to earlier, there's no additional costs. Most of the reading material, if you will, or the content of the course is already online, or the book is made available as an ebook that's easily accessed through the library. The software, 99% of the time, the software is provided for you as part of your technology fee, which is embedded in your credit hour cost. So there's no additional outlay of cash for software. So it's pretty much everything is contained within the tuition cost. Great.
And I think this one is mine. We do have a few scholarships available. There aren't too many. This is one of the things that we're always working on and trying to find more funds to have available. Esri has a scholarship. David DiBiase, who's on the call, has also established a scholarship. So we work hard to try to make those opportunities available for some of our students. There are a couple World Campus scholarships available, and you can get to that. I'll show you later. One of the links from our webpage takes you to the information about scholarships and financial aid, because all of our programs are eligible for federal financial aid. But there are a few scholarships if you want to try to pursue one of those. This next question is going to be taken by Jim Detweiler.
Hi, folks. I'm Jim Detweiler. I'm the faculty lead for our Geospatial Programming certificate and teach classes in that program as well. So can I skip certain courses if I have experience? Yeah, our GIS certificate has a typical sequence of foundational courses, but we also have a experienced professionals track where folks who have a good deal of experience in the field already can essentially eliminate 3 of those 4 courses and really put together their own curriculum. And then in our programming certificate, fairly commonly I get folks who have a lot of Python coding experience already, and so I allow them to skip our introductory Python class and substitute in our advanced Python class. So, and I suspect similar things happen in the other certificates as well. So, yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Great. And then I think Greg is going to take this question.
Yes, the question about transferring credits, we do allow credits to transfer in. You can transfer credits from an outside institution if you've taken graduate credits somewhere else. And they're different. The policies differ a little bit, but from external credits, you can transfer up to 10 credits from a regionally accredited institution. They have to be meet the criteria of what the corresponding course would be with Penn State, or what level of class it is, and it has to be a grade of a B or better. So A's and B's would work. You can also transfer in credits that you earn at Penn State. You might be, and this happens a lot, students are not in a degree program. They might be taking non-degree credits, or they might be in one of the certificate programs. But they're still enrolled in Penn State classes. And you can transfer, in that case, if you go and want to get into one of the master's programs, you can transfer a maximum of 15 credits as a non-degree or as a certificate student. And those credits transfer in as 400, 500, or 800 level classes. And those classes, A's, B's, or C's, they'll be transferred in and they will be counted as part of your GPA. But we do make it easy. There is a time limit. Typically, if you've taken a class within 5 years, whether it's internal or external, and you can transfer that into your program at Penn State. And we also really work with students in looking at, if you've taken classes externally, we will look at those and see where they would fit in. If you're taking a certificate or a master's program, they might fit in as an elective, or even as one of the option or the required courses in the program. So we really do work with transferring credits in.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Next, I think Jim is going to take this one.
Yeah. So what activities will you be doing? One of the most common questions we get when we meet with folks at conferences is, do I need to be online to attend lecture at a particular time? And definitely not. The form that we deliver our content in is typically written lessons that you can access and work through at a time that's convenient for you. Typically, you'll complete a project that asks you to apply what you learned when you work through the lesson. The lessons tend to be kind of tutorial style, and the projects are very much hands-on, working with the technology. Now, in a number of our programming classes, I know from experience that we also offer optional lecture/demos that a lot of folks have found to be helpful to be able to learn the content in a different format. But those are completely optional for those who want that. So that's how our content's delivered.
Great. And then I think Fritz, oops, there we go. Fritz is going to take this one.
So I'm in charge of the accelerated admissions process. And what this basically means is if you complete our certificate and for the first three courses have a GPA of 3.67, that entitles you to apply for the accelerated admission, which means that you can skip the regular admission process into the MGIS program. So it's a streamlined way for you to gain acceptance into the MGIS program without having to go through the formal application process that another individual would have to go through. So it's a quicker way to get from the certificate directly into the MGIS program. If you completed a certificate at another institution where you earned a grade, that can also be considered equitable for the accelerated admission option too. So just because you didn't go to Penn State doesn't mean that you couldn't necessarily gain entry into the MGIS program through the accelerated admission process.
Great, thanks, Fritz. And then I sort of did everything a little backwards. I probably should have introduced everybody at the beginning, but before we take your questions, I just want to acknowledge who's here in attendance that are faculty and students, and so that way we can share the questions as they come in from folks in attendance. I'm Beth King. A lot of you know me, whether you're in one of our certificate programs or whether we have corresponded through just an email because you're interested in one of our programs. You've Jim and Greg and Fritz introduced themselves. Alex Crow is here. She's a recent graduate of our program, so thank you so much, Alex. We have Brandy Gartner, who's a new faculty member with us. She is in attendance. Thanks for coming, Brandy. David DiBiase, some of you may know, he teaches in our program. Thanks for coming, David. I mentioned that he is sponsoring one of the scholarships, which is great. Who else do we have here? Michelle Zeiters is here. Todd Backistow is here. Thanks for coming, Michelle and Todd. So you guys should jump in if there are any particular questions you want to answer. If anybody wants to direct a question toward anybody in particular, please just let us know. And if I missed anybody, let me know. But yeah, we could just open it up to questions now. We do have some other questions in subsequent slides in case we don't, if for some reason we run out of questions here and we need a couple others just to kind of keep the conversation going. But if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question or post something in the chat, paste a question into the chat, we can do it that way. So let us know if you have any questions that we haven't answered yet.
So my name is Sean McCraw, and I recently graduated with a bachelor's in anthropology, which is, I think, a far cry from this. So my question would be, you've covered a lot of is really accommodating to people who already experienced in geography or GIS or coding. And I'm in your certificate program. This is my first class. And I get the feeling just from the discussion forums that a large portion of people in the classes have experience or a background in this field. So long story short, my question would be, how difficult of a process am I looking at going forward, not having a background in geography and GIS sciences?
Yeah, I'll take the first stab at that, Sean. Thanks for the question. And if anybody else wants to jump in, please do. It sounds like, are you in Geography 482 right now, Sean? Yeah, so sort of as Jim alluded to, and as we were sort of talking about whether you can skip classes because you have experience, on the flip side, we have introductory classes for students who don't have a lot of experience with GIS or the various softwares. So we do provide that background information. We do have a lot of different students. As you said, you'll see some folks in the classes who have a lot of experience, but there are others like you. And anthropology might seem like a big stretch, but it's really not. I mean, that's a lot more closely related than a lot of the fields that we see students coming from. So we do have classes that bridge that gap. And when we're planning your classes, if you start a master's degree, if you apply and get accepted, we work through all of that. We talk and plan your curriculum based on your past experience, past education, if you have taken any of the introductory classes in one of the certificate programs. So we work through all of that and make sure that you're, you know, sort of taking classes in the right order and taking classes that make sense for your experience level. So I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in on that.
I would just say I wouldn't be too concerned if you don't have experience. As Beth said, we have a regular GIS certificate, which is meant for complete novices to the field, and that'll give you the foundation that you need if you then want to go on for a master's. It'll prepare you for that. I think the biggest thing would be that I would be concerned about would be having the opportunity to apply what you're learning in your job. If you have that ability right away, that to me is the key. That you have a way to apply what you're learning right away, and so that you're not going to lose anything that you're learning.
Yeah, so moving down, first I have a shout out from Jeff. He's in my class now in Geography 43 and a couple other folks. Rebecca said, are payment plans offered? Yes. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with all of the options, but yes, there are some various options, and those are also linked from that same page on our homepage, which is pennstategis.com, which we will have on a slide later. There's a page there that is the same page that had the scholarships and the financial aid information. That also links to the Bursar information of the different payment plans that are available. And another question we get a lot is, how do you pay for classes? Students pay for classes as they take them, so one at a time. You never pay for a class that you're not registered for yet. The next question is, the GRE required? The spatial data science program does not require the GRE. This is a change from the MGIS degree. In the MGIS degree, the requirements are that if you don't have, that there is a way to waive it if you have work experience, but that was always one of the things that was required. But if you have work experience, you can waive it for the MGIS, and it is not required for the spatial data science program.
And that's one of the things that's cut out if you do the accelerated admission.
Correct.
Right.
So how competitive? I don't know, does Fritz or does anybody else want to jump? I don't want to answer all the questions, but
Yeah, let's see. I saw that question. How competitive? Yeah, so the competitiveness is there are 3 intake pools for the MGIS program. They take place in different times of the year. There's an intake pool in March, there's one in June, and then there's one in September. And there's a committee that examines the applications. And what we tend to look at is not anything specific, but kind of a well-rounded mix of materials. Probably one of the more important pieces of those application materials is a self-statement. It's a page and a half worth of you telling the committee not only why you want to get the degree, but what sort of background you have, what you bring to the table, and what you hope to get out of completing the degree. That's probably a pretty important component, because not only is it expressing your interest in the program, but it also gives us an opportunity to evaluate your writing skills. There's some of the courses do have a fair amount of writing involved, So that gives us an opportunity to see your writing skills. Your academic background, letters of recommendation are also pretty important. They help give us an insight into your previous work environment or your current work environment. Performance evaluations from your employer are part of that letter recommendation. So those are pretty important too. But in terms of the competitiveness, I mean, we get a certain group of students in that apply during one of these intake pools, and we do have to make decisions about students that do get accepted and those that don't get accepted. So if you're trying to hedge your bet, if you will, focus on the self-narrative. Make sure that does a good job explaining you, who you are, and why you want to be part of the Penn State program.
And one of the things that has, especially toward the beginning when we were starting the various programs, one of the things that limited how many students we could accept was how many advisors we have, because we don't overload advisors. We make sure that it's usually an advisor has only 1 or 2 advisees at any one time. We've been fortunate. We are always adding new advisors to our program. We have advisors from across the university. So that's been fantastic. We have, I think, 60 plus advisors at this point. So that has made it easier for us to accept more than we used to be able to accept in the past. The next question here is, I'm in the certificate program and taking 42. Is Geography 43 the next class I should take? Yes, if you do not have a lot of experience with GIS, then it sounds like you're probably following the traditional track that we call it of our GIS certificate program. And typically the order of the classes for the traditional track, it's Geography 42, then Geography 43, 44, and then an elective. So yes, that is typical. For students who have a lot of experience, then and they're doing the GIS certificate, we have something that we call the Experienced Professionals track, which allows you to do some combination of those first 3 classes or skip those and take electives in their place. So again, we really tried to tailor this to your past education and experience. Next one, Fritz, do you want to take this one about can we apply after we complete the 3rd class?
Yeah, I actually responded in the chat below.
Okay.
But yeah, I can just kind of reiterate here that for the accelerated admission, if you are currently in the certificate program and you are taking your 3rd class, you can apply for accelerated admission while you're taking that 3rd class. But the caveat is that in order for us to grant you acceptance, we need for that 3rd class to end. So we need to have a grade for that 3rd class. And there's actually another question a little bit later from, let's see, from Jeff Dunaway. He's asking that regarding the accelerated admission, if my GPA is 3.6 and after 3 credit hours, should I take a 4th credit to increase that admission sort of guarantee? So just to clarify, for the accelerated admissions, you need to have completed 3 courses, three credit courses, and the grade, the cumulative GPA should be at a minimum of 3.67. Taking an additional class after that to bump your GPA up isn't a factor. We only consider the first 3 courses. So and then it has to be the first 3 courses, not first 3 credits, just to clear up confusion.
And if I can say, it also is not a guarantee that you'll be accepted, that you meet the 3.67 threshold. It simply cuts out some of the items that you have to supply when you apply, like the GRE, yeah. And I forget the other items.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. That's an important point. Just because you have the GPA doesn't mean that you are automatically accepted. There is still a review process that goes or takes place We look at your resume, we look at your self-statement, we look at your academic record, comments from previous instructors and so forth. So that's all wrapped up into the accelerated admission process. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, sorry that I wasn't looking down. So if somebody answered one of these, I'm just kind of going down the line. So I think the next one is from Kathleen. She asks, do you recommend someone who comes from a background that is not GIS? Would you recommend the accelerated admissions process, certificate first, or would there not be a problem doing the master's program? If you can do it either way, but we usually do recommend that if you don't have a background to start with a certificate program. There's lots of advantages to that. You get to know what our program is like. You get to, we get to know you a little bit. You get to get some of that background information and make sure that this is something that you definitely want to do. It does give you the advantage, if you finish those first 3 classes and do want to apply, then all of those credits that you earned do transfer in if you're accepted. So it's not like you're losing any credits. And you do get that advantage of not needing letters of recommendation and a couple of those perks. So yes, I do. Again, it's not you could apply directly to the master's program, but if you don't have, and if you don't have a background in GIS, then it probably is a good idea to start with a GIS certificate. Geology applications. I'm not sure, Rosie, if you can expand on what you mean by that. It sounds like if you have a background if your bachelor's degree is in geology, this is similar to kind of what Sean was saying, that we have students from pretty much every background. I mean, undergraduate degrees in pretty much everything. So if you have a geology degree, again, that's related, not a giant stretch. We have introductory classes that can bridge the gap for you. So if that's your question, and if that's not your question, go ahead and type it in or speak up. Okay, who wants to take the difference between the MGIS and spatial data science program? Fritz, do you want to, or do you want me to, or Jim or Greg or anybody else?
No, I can do that. So spatial data science, if you're following the trends in computing and statistics and so forth, that it's an emerging field that combines three basic elements. One is visualization of data. 2 is the statistical basis for that visualization, and then 3 is the computing power that allows that to happen. So the spatial data science program is heavily tinged towards those 3 areas. So you have the statistical component, which deals a lot with using different software packages for statistical processes. You have the coding aspect, which deals with languages like R and Python to use the statistical packages that are part of those languages. And then you have specialized software that allows you to visualize the results of those investigations. That compares then with GIS, which is more analysis on data without necessarily the statistical component. So the spatial data science is really focusing on the statistical, the coding, and then the visualization compared to GIS, which is sort of absent of that statistical process. The other aspect of the spatial data science is that if you are so inclined, there is a thesis option that you can go through with the spatial data science and earn your master's and come out with a thesis. There's another question that I think I can kind of tag on at the end of my discussion here about Alexander wanted to know about the PhD degree with the spatial data science. So with the spatial data science, yes, you do have the option of earning a thesis or completing a thesis, earning your degree. But you can also do a scholarly paper as another culminating experience. Presently, there is no online PhD extension, if you will, for the spatial data science. However, if you wanted a PhD closely related to that field, the department, the geography department, the in-resident component has a PhD program that you would apply to and potentially get accepted into. So presently, there is no online component or follow-up to the spatial data science master's program.
To piggyback off of that, is it possible to work with another like master's degree? So I think an example I had said in the intro was like if I were to do like soil science and the spatial data science, so using like carbon sequestration and statistical like that, is that a way to merge? Is there a way to merge that thesis option with maybe possibly another degree?
It would be topic dependent. So our department, the geography department, doesn't really have a soil scientist. You'd have to work at another department at Penn State, and that's certainly possible. Every department has their own sort of guidelines and protocols they follow for allowing PhDs to happen. For example, in the geography department, they have a 5-year PhD, which involves you completing a master's your first year and then transitioning into the PhD. I don't know if the soil science department has that kind of plan. If they did, I wouldn't see any reason why you couldn't kind of join those two ideas hand in hand. There'd have to be some approvals from both departments before that kind of venture took place. But if that was possible, then I wouldn't see why that couldn't exist. More than likely, though, any PhD that you do at Penn State is going to be an in-resident approach, and will not be online.
All right, great, thank you.
I think the next one is from Rebecca. She says, are there research opportunities available? And the answer to that is yes. A lot of our students, because they are already working and often in some related field, they come with ideas for the capstone project, whichever degree, whether it's they're doing a thesis, a scholarly paper, or the capstone project with the MGIS degree. But we do have some students who don't have an idea, or maybe they are tired of doing what they do at work and want to do something completely different and want to work with a faculty member at Penn State who has some research that they need help with. So yes, we can match you up with an advisor or advisors who have topics that they would like help with. So we definitely can help with that if you don't already have a topic that you want to work on.
Beth, I might add too that we've recently been, especially in the geospatial intelligence program, been working with different agencies and organizations that will come to us with problem sets that they're interested in, and they're anxious or interested in seeing how our students answer these problem sets. So it's really applied research, and these are typically, again, like you mentioned, part of the capstone projects that we're doing in the geospatial program. But it's working directly with outside organizations and federal agencies and seeing what they're facing, what problems they're facing. So you really get some, so like I said, practical hands-on research opportunities through that.
Yeah, if I could add, we've had someone who has a background in anthropology, and soil science, and geology. If you are doing a master's degree in your culminating experience, your capstone project, or doing a thesis, you'll get paired up with an advisor that's in anthropology or is in soil science, so that you have someone that has expertise in your domain. It's not just going to be geographers. And I think that's a really important aspect of what we do.
If that's what you want. I mean, if you want to go in a different direction, then we'll pair you up with,
Sure.
But yes, so like I was saying earlier, we have advisors from many different departments and colleges across campus. So we're really lucky to have folks with subject matter expertise in a lot of different areas. Michelle posted a couple questions. Michelle, I did have your email up. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Michelle has some questions coming from her class. We can answer those. I think some of them were touched upon. Do students have to complete a thesis if they enroll in the spatial data science degree? There are two options, as Fritz alluded to. There is a 3-credit scholarly paper option, and there is a 6-credit thesis option. So no, you don't have to do a thesis. You can choose that scholarly paper option. The second question is, how likely am I to be hired as a GIS analyst after completing only the certificate? This, obviously, the answer is it depends. I don't know who else, probably a couple other people want to chime in on this, but a huge part of it is where you live, and just what, how many organizations are around you, what opportunities are available. But we do have a lot of students who have found that they do not need an advanced degree to go and get a GIS analyst job or a GIS job. So it is not a given that you need to earn a master's degree to to get the kind of job you're looking for. And this is for that's exactly why we do these surveys every few years. It's just to kind of find out what our students have done with either the certificate that they earned or the degree. And so we do get a lot of feedback that a lot of our certificate students go on to get the jobs that they're after. But again, it's really hard to answer because it just kind of depends on where you are and if you're where a lot of geospatial jobs are. Does anybody else want to jump in on that one at all?
I think David DiBiase responded there too in the
Okay.
chat, so you can look through that. But yes, he has a good his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the field too. So
yes, thank you.
His response.
Thank you, David. I'm not doing a great job of scrolling down. And then the other one that one of Michelle's students asked is if you're struggling with the asynchronous aspect of online learning. So this student says they're making appointments with their instructor. Are there other resources? We have a maps library on campus that have some folks who have office hours and some various resources to use. And certainly the most important thing is to reach out to your instructor and to the program, and we can try to match you up with any resources that are available. And then Rosie said, just as a clarification, what she was asking, does anybody go on and use the certificate or master's in a geology related career or research? And definitely, again, sort of the same as we have students come from every field, we have students going out and applying their classwork and degrees in lots of different fields. So we would have to search our database and find some students who might be at organizations that are particular to if there's a particular geology related organization or something like that we could try to match you up with somebody to find out what they're doing. But yes, we do have students who go on and work in that field. Does anybody want to take which states have the most demand for jobs in GIS?
I don't know whether it's so much a given state. I think it'd be more like a metro area or a city. I know there's some important GIS organizations that are in Denver, St. Louis. St. Louis is one of the cities that has the National Geospatial Agency headquarters, or I don't think it's really headquarters, but it's a branch. They hire a lot of GIS skilled professionals. Houston, yeah, DC, definitely. DC is the whole DC area is a good place. Atlanta, is another place where there's a lot of GIS. Huntsville, Alabama, Rocket City is another place where there's a lot of GIS development. So I don't think it'd be too far off to say that it's not the state per se, it's the location. So there's a few that I know of that have a good need for GIS folks.
Jim, it looks like the next one might be for you about Python.
Can you read it to me?
Yes. Rosie says, would you recommend dabbling in some programming, specifically Python, before joining the program?
Not necessarily. Our programming certificate curriculum, the first recommended course is our introductory Python class, which is aimed at novice programmers. Now, ideally, yeah, it might be a good idea to dabble a bit, to have tried programming before, to know whether it's something that you have an aptitude for. You know, there's a reason there's so many jobs out there, that job ads that are asking for programming, and it's because it's in high demand, because there's not a high supply. It's something that not everybody can do. So, but you know, you don't have to commit to 15 credits of classes all at once and commit all that money. You can start with that introductory class 45 and see how it goes. And if it goes well, great, you can continue on with the rest of the curriculum. If it doesn't go well, then you're only out that one class, and maybe you can shift to a different certificate at that point.
And David chimed in there and said there's some Python even in Geography 42, that very first class. So that can kind of give you a taste of it and see if that's something you want to continue on with.
I guess the other thing I would point out is that all of our programming classes are fully open educational resources. The entire content of all these courses, the programming courses, is open. And so if you go to our PennStateGIS.com, you can make your way to links to these courses, and you can check out the content yourself. You could start with 485 and start working through it and see how you do, see how you're able to handle it.
While we wait to see if there are any other questions from folks in the room, I can go on to the next slides where we have, these are some questions that we have gotten in the past that we kind of just added to slides, because these are some common questions that we get. And so I'll keep an eye on the chat to see if we have any other questions coming in, but one of the common questions is, do you need to take classes continuously to remain enrolled? And the answer is no. So as I said earlier, sometimes students will only take a couple classes a year. So if you take an entire spring semester off or an entire fall semester off, so you don't take a spring 1 or a spring 2, or if you don't take a fall 1 or a fall 2, then we have something called a resume studies form. And sometimes the language from the university sounds sort of scary. So if you're reading anything at the graduate school, it says something like you're withdrawing from the program or something like that. Completing a resume study form is very easy, and our students do it all the time. So we, again, the key to the program is flexibility. So we realize that everybody's working and has families and changing jobs and things like that. So it is flexible as far as when you take classes. This next one, does anybody want to jump on this one? I think Jim kind of alluded to this one a little bit earlier. Do you want to say anything else about that one, Jim, or should I just move on to the next one?
No, I hope I covered that.
Yeah, everything's asynchronous. This sort of depends on the classes. We, for the most part, don't have a lot of prerequisites. Sometimes there are some things in there. It's always a good idea to check with us to see if something is actually a prerequisite. It might depend on what you have done in the past. There are certain things that are recommended. For example, if you're going to do the advanced Python class, then you probably should do the Geography 45, the first Python class. But as far as coming into the program with knowledge, again, this just kind of goes back to, we work with you to figure out what education and experience you have. So there's nothing, there's no particular course or classwork or anything that you need prior to coming to us. Greg, do you want to take this one?
Well, sure. How intense is the course load? I guess that depends on your individual motivation a lot of the times. We typically, especially, well, I think in a lot of the programs, most of the students are full-time professionals working in the field. They have other commitments, jobs, family, and I've advised many students going through this, and a very manageable workload is 2 classes a semester, and that might be taking a class spring 1 and another class spring 2, fall 1, fall 2, something like that. But the 2 classes over that time period is very manageable for most people. And again, because of the flexibility, you can always back that down a little bit if you just want to take 1 class. If you really have a lot of free time and you're very motivated, you could take more. So, but as a typical rule of thumb, I go with the 2 classes a semester. Now, some classes, and this is where it's important to talk to an advisor in the program, because they will typically set up a course plan for you, and it might be nice to not have to take 2 intense programming classes at the same time. You might want to take a programming class and another, maybe a GIS class or something a little different, so that you're not taking the same intensity of class at the same time. So that's something where you'd work with an advisor. So I think hopefully I at least answered part of that question, but it's a lot up to your own pace, and again, working with an advisor who will help you guide with your coursework.
And we usually say it's roughly 12 hours of effort per class per week. So that's sort of the guideline or the guidance that we give, is when you're budgeting your time to figure out how many classes you can take. Again, I'm monitoring the chat. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to post those in there. We're just going to kind of go through these questions. Go ahead, Fritz.
There is one from Ryan about the accelerated admission. So if I could get that real quick. So Ryan asked, if I were to meet the criterion for accelerated admissions and do not get in, can I reapply after? Are the decisions final? So for the accelerated admissions, yes, the decisions are final. However, if you do not get accepted through the accelerated admissions, you can still apply through the regular application process and have your application materials considered for the regular intake. So that's just another venue or avenue for you to be considered for one of the programs.
Okay, I mean, I don't know why I'm not seeing that one that you just answered, Fritz. Maybe that went to you directly. Anyway, I didn't see it.
It did.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anybody's. So Brianne asks, can you review the enrollment schedule for 2021, 2022? Oh, I think I missed it on the slide earlier. So let me go to this. So I can tell you, you can see roughly there that the spring 1 term starts in January. The spring 2 term starts toward the end of February. There's a 3-week overlap between those 2. The summer term starts in May. The fall 1 term starts in August, and the fall 2 term starts in October, again with those with the 3-week overlap there. Does that answer your question, Brianne?
I was just going to say, regardless of what program you want to be in, the logical first class should be offered in all 5 of those terms. So you can start any part of the year, really.
Yes. Yeah, and I can, if you go to that PennStateGIS.com website again, there's a classes page that has the exact start and end dates of each term and which classes are offered in each term. Okay, so the next one on our list, again, please type questions or unmute yourself and ask a question. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Michelle. There's the class calendar, so you can see exactly which classes are offered each term. And like Jim said, if a lot of our classes are offered every term, so pretty much when you want to start, you can.
Before you go on, I might just say that I'm always referring students to that class calendar. It not only tells you when classes start and end, it tells you who's teaching the classes. You can click on the hyperlink to, as Jim said, you can go in and look at the course content. In a lot of the cases, it's not the open education resource same page, but it does give you a good idea of what the lesson and material is. So I'm always, that's one of the first things I always refer students to.
Yeah, so I think this question we sort of answered already. If you want to take fewer classes a year, that is fine. Yes, you have up to 8 years to finish, which is more time than most students ever need. This one, how to choose between the 2 programs. It's best to reach out to us and we can kind of walk you through, kind of figure out what your goals are. Oftentimes, if somebody really doesn't know, I will often tell them to look at the classes, write down the classes that interest them most, and then that sometimes sort of helps to steer you one way or the other. But we are happy to talk to you about which program makes more sense for you.
Can I chime in on that one?
Yes, please.
Kind of building on what Fritz was saying earlier. The way I see it, the MGIS degree is more of a professional degree for folks that are out in the field already. They don't see themselves going on for a PhD, most likely. This is a way for them to advance their careers that are already underway. Whereas the MS degree is closer to a traditional academic degree in the sense that you can finish up with a thesis if you choose to, or you do a scholarly paper. The MGIS degree, that culminates with a presentation at a professional conference. You know, that's tailored more towards what working professionals are doing. So I think that's again, that seems to me that's a big difference between the 2.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Next one, what types of careers can be pursued? Again, you probably saw from that slide early on that we have alumni in so many different organizations and careers, so you can pretty much find our students in every industry. So if you know, that's another thing that we will often talk to you about, regardless of what program you are. Certainly if you're in one of the master's programs, when we're planning your curriculum, is, you know, what are you planning to do? We want to match the electives that you take with what you intend to do after graduating. So, but lots of options here. That's the beauty of our programs, or the beauty of geospatial technology, is that it's used so many different places. Here's a question from Rosie. Given how jobs have changed over the past 2 years, do you see many GIS analysts or similar jobs being mostly remote positions? That's a good question. Does anybody want to take that one? I haven't really noticed a difference, but I'm sure there are some more opportunities for remote than there were before.
Can I just jump in right quick and give an observation on that? So
Absolutely.
my wife got her bachelor's in GIS from ASU a little over almost 2 years ago. But anyway, she just applied for a job here in Mississippi with the school system looking at COVID data, and it's all remote. So I would say, yeah, I think it's increased if Mississippi is offering a remote position.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yeah, I think that's probably true, is that there are definitely more opportunities than there were before to work remotely, but I haven't really paid much attention to the actual job ads to see if they incorporate that into the descriptions, but that's a really good question. Oops. Yeah, so here's our contact information. So you can always email us at the info@gis.psu.edu. The PennStateGIS.com website I had mentioned multiple times, so there's lots of information there. One of the things that's there is I mentioned what a great network of students we have, and keep in mind that Alex is here. She's a recent graduate, so if anybody has a specific question for a graduate of a master's program, feel free to ask a question. But we have an alumni map, and we make that available on that PennStateGIS.com page. And students opt in to include their information there. So they might include their phone number, email address, or both. So that has been a great resource and is a great resource for students who are looking to see what do other people think of the programs, what have they done with their degrees or certificates, and just to get a perspective different from our faculty. So you can go and check that out. Oops. Any other questions?
Oh, sorry, it's Alex Crow. Just because you said my name and you shouted out to me. Yeah, if anybody wants to even just like message me privately, please go ahead. I've agreed with everything the instructors have said, that especially with timelines and thinking about your amount of work you can do if you're working full time. I worked full time while doing my degree, and it took me about 3 years to complete. And I did classes. I only missed one semester because I was moving in that timeline. So I think it went really well, but I really had to figure out my time management with a full-time job, full-time, wife and home stuff and everything, and then doing my homework and studying on my own. So if you have any questions, career-wise, I can't offer a ton of advice. I am active duty Air Force, so they kind of tell me what I do, but I do love this job, and it really applies to what I do for the Air Force. And the DoD is always looking for, there's always some sort of GIS or geospatial need in the DoD. So I will plug that. But otherwise, I don't need to talk anymore. But I just wanted to say that, everybody.
Thank you so much, Alex, for being here and taking the time. Maybe you want to post your, maybe you don't, but maybe you want to post your email address in the chat in case anybody. Thank you. And we are after 9, so if anybody wants to leave, I am recording, so I can share this recording. But if anybody else, David, thank you for answering a lot of the questions in the chat. Do you want to say anything? Michelle, do you want to say anything? Todd? Anybody else? Brandy? Anybody else who's in the room? Please
Just wanted to say one thing. When you're looking at that course calendar, if you do have questions about a specific course, I would encourage people to reach out to the instructors directly. I receive a lot of emails directly, and I like that we're all approachable. And I think that if you have questions or concerns, contacting the person who's teaching the class is a good idea.
Great. Thanks, Michelle.
No comments, well covered.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. David, do you have anything to say?
Nope, you said it all.
Thanks for being here. Brandy, do you want to say anything? Maybe Brandy left. But again, thanks. Yeah, thanks to everybody for coming and asking great questions. We look forward to seeing you in class. Hi, David.
Hey.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you, David. Thanks.